Ancient Iraq had one of the most famous and brutal law codes in history. Here are the most horrific punishments they used to keep everyone living in fear. Ancient Iraq, also known as Mesopotamia, was once home to the Assyrian Empire. The Assyrians were infamous for their brutality, and their own inscriptions boast of horrific punishments inflicted on enemies, including flaying, the removal of the skin as a form of execution. In one inscription from the 7th century BC, the king of Assyria boasted about flaying rebellious nobles and decorating his castle walls with their skins. They were also known to carry out impalement, with victims stuck on spikes outside city walls to act as a warning to others. The method involved impaling the body on a sharp, tall stake, which would be left to kill the individual slowly. It was a visual, horrifying spectacle designed to instill fear and maintain order. Decapitation was also commonly used on rebels or enemies of the state, with the heads of the victims piled up to create terrifying mounds for their enemies to witness. Cutting off the ears, noses, lips, or limbs were also used as a humiliating punishment in ancient Assyria, leaving the victim permanently disfigured as a reminder to all of their crimes. Assyrian kings were proud of their brutality, boasting about their horrific punishments and how many people they enslaved. Some were even blinded, leaving them unable to live any form of normal life. Blinded criminals may have spent their lives on the streets begging or surviving off scraps until a slow death finally caught up to them. One of the most sadistic execution methods was to be torn apart by dogs or wild beasts. This punishment was likely reserved for high-profile cases, with the execution being a public spectacle, much like those carried out in the Roman Colosseum. Although not as violent as others, the Assyrians were also known to carry out punishments against entire populations. The use of mass deportation of conquered cities was used to break the spirit of the subjugated people and prevent rebellion. For example, after subjugating the Israelites in the 8th century BC, the Assyrians deported tens of thousands across the empire to serve as farmers, builders, and soldiers. The Assyrians reached the height of their power in the 7th century BC, but they came 1,000 years after Hammurabi, the man who gave us the oldest and most complete law code ever discovered. As king of Babylonia, an ancient and mighty empire in Mesopotamia, he was one of the first to create a clear code of laws, but its punishments were horrific. The term, an eye for an eye, first appeared in Hammurabi's law code, stating that the punishment for destroying the eye of a man would be to have them destroy yours in return. Another example stated how, if a man burned down someone's house and caused death, then his punishment would be to be burned alive. Effectively, in ancient Babylonia, there might have been countless ways you could be executed. It just depended on the nature of the crime you committed. There were exceptions to this rule, however, as the rich often got away with inflicting injury on the poor. The laws were specific to class and social standing, meaning that if a poor person knocked out the tooth of a wealthy elite, he may suffer severe mutilation or death. Mutilation was a standard punishment in ancient Mesopotamia, with even lesser crimes punishable with extreme violence. The punishment for hitting your father was to have your hands cut